Hi guys. So for today, we are going to open our 4.1 document that has the ramp and the tent. Um, and I've opened the one that has the tent that was created from the 3D polyline tool. Um, if you've done one using subtracted solids, that's okay. It will look a little bit different when we do a section view, but that's okay. So what I want to talk about today is we've worked through design layers, and I use classes a lot for organization. We talked about some workers use the design layers and do multiple design layers for each object, which is also great. I just have a certain way of working that I'm going to continue with. So, when we are in our classes, we have an individual class for every object. That's part of our organization. And again, when we've worked in design layers, in my mind, that's where we've created our 3D drafted set. So it's a 3D modeled program. When we convert that 3D modeled program into pages that get printed for a drafting package, that's what we're going to focus on in this video. So to the right of your design layers in your navigation, you can see that this one that has sort of the border and the little title block, these are your sheet layers. And I'm going to teach you today how to create your sheet layers and how to place your orthographic views onto your sheet layers. So I was kind of already in here playing around, so I've already created sheet 1, but I'm going to change it. So let's go ahead and go up to Tools, Organization. This is our major hub for organizing our draftings. Over here we have our classes, design layers, stories. I don't use stories. From what I understand, stories are more for buildings that have multiple stories. So when I go to sheet layers, I can see that I already have sheet layer 1, but I'm going to go ahead and edit that because I always want my sheet layer 1 to be my ground plan. So, oops. And quite frankly, I do not like 72 DPI. I'm going to change that to 300 for when you print it. It's going to print a lot nicer. And then I'm going to just continue to organize. So number 1 is my ground plan. Sheet number 2 is going to be my elevations. Elevations, you will often have more than one page. So we're going to make elevation 1. We can do elevations 2. And then another thing that we're going to learn how to do today is to create a section view. So I'm going to just create sheet 4 as a section view and press OK. You can see that that first one maintained the 300 DPI. I'm going to go ahead and just change these right here so that everything looks nice once we export it to PDF. If you get a really fuzzy export, this is probably why. So we have created our sheet layers that we want, and when you look at navigation, you can see they're all right here: ground plan, elevation 1, elevation 2, and section. So we want to make sure that that our check mark is back on our design layer, and then we want to come in here to our classes. You may have saved these under design layers, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and leave my ramp on and I'm going to turn off my tent. I want to make sure that I have the dimension class on and none class on as well. So at the moment, we are working within the none class, which is fine. We just always have to make sure that it is visible in our viewports. So like I said, when you're creating a viewport, you're essentially taking a photograph of the object that you want to make orthographic views of, and then you're placing them on your piece of paper, which is your sheet layer. So we always want a top view. So we're looking right down at the top of this ramp. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Then I'm going to go up to View, Create Viewport, and it opens this dialog, and we need to fill this in. So we want all of our orthographic views to go on our elevations. So we're going to change this Create on Layer. We don't want it on the ground plan. We want it on elevation number 1. And then for the drawing number, 1 is fine. It will just go to 2 next time, etc. For our drawing title, though, we want to go ahead and fill that in as ramp top. You can select which layers are on. We only really have design layer, and you can see the eyeball is visible. You can select which classes. Again, we turned off tent, and that was great. So this is just another way to double check that. I typically don't check it every time because I've set those up in advance. We want our scale to be 1/2 inch scale. When in doubt, use 1/2 inch scale. If you need to see more of the detail, you can go up in scale. Detail level, I always just switch that on to high. As you can see right here, the view is whatever view we were in when we created this viewport, which we were in top plan view. So again, top plan view is essentially looking at a 2-dimensional view of the top down. We're going to switch this from wireframe. We're going to go ahead and go to dashed hidden line. I almost always use dashed hidden line because then it's going to create those hidden lines automatically and save you steps later on. And then press OK. So it automatically now has taken us out of the design layer and into the sheet layer. And you know this because in navigation, when I click on my sheet layer, the check mark is right there next to sheet number 2. When I look at my design layer, there is no check mark. So we've moved sort of spaces, and now we're into the sheet layers. And this right here, this orange box, is our viewport that we just created. So you can see it's labeled number 1. It's the ramp top view, which we just labeled, and it shows what scale. So we're in 1/2 inch scale. 1/2 inch is equal to 1 foot 0 inches. It's kind of weird because we don't see the ramp, and that's because when this has a candy cane border around it, it means that you need to update that viewport. So in object information, you just go over here and update is labeled in red. You just click that button. And now we do see the top view of our ramp. So we've created the first view of our orthographic views. I'm just going to click and I'm going to drag it. Actually, I like to have my top view sort of below, and I'll put the front view right above it. So I'm going to go back to my design layer by moving my check mark right next to that design layer. And I would like to do a front view. So I'm going to go into a front view. I'm just going to kind of zoom in around my ramp, and then I'm going to do view, again, create viewport. The dialog opens up again. Drawing, we want to be on sheet number 2, which is that elevation number 1. For the drawing title, we want this to be ramp front because it is our front view. Layers and classes, I've already set those up, so I'm not going to double check this time. But I do want to change to 1/2 inch scale again, high detail. Front view, because that's how we established our viewport. Instead of shaded, I'd like to change it to dashed hidden line, and then press OK again. And there it is. So again, it has that candy cane line, so I'm going to go ahead and update. And then I would like for my ramp front view to be directly above my ramp top view. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw a little construction line using the edge of my ramp. Just draw that right there. Then I'm going to select using the end point of that ramp and just set it so that it's all lined up. Then I can delete that construction line. So we've got the side view, the top view. Now I'd like to have a side view. I think I said that wrong. I have a top view, front view, I need side view. So back into the design layer. I'm going to go to a left view. Zoom into my object again. View, create viewport. Sheet 2, drawing 3. I'm going to go ahead and write this one as ramp left side. 1/2 inch scale, high detail, dashed hidden line. I'm going to update, and there it is. There is my side view. So I'm going to draw another construction line off the side. And I'm going to select using that endpoint and bring it up. Okay, and so this is how you would create the drawing for an orthographic view, also known as your elevations. This is then what you would print to PDF. And before you printed, the things that you need are your border, and you need your title block down here with all of the pertinent information. Go back to our design layer. I'm going to go to a top view, and I'm going to open my classes. I'm going to turn off my ramp, and I'm going to turn on the tent object. So for the orthographic views, I don't want these guidelines, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete these guidelines. Yep, there they are. I just selected through the object. You can delete them. Okay, so back to my top view. I'm going to go ahead and go to View, Create Viewport. This time I'm going to put it on elevation page number 2, which is sheet number 3. Takes the drawing title back to 1. I'm going to name this one Tent Top. And again, I like the dashed hidden line. It saves us some work later on, so we might as well get used to using that. Candy cane line, so I'm going to update, and there we go. Back to design layer. I'm going to go to a front view. So again, I want to line these up. I'm going to use a construction line or a reference line. On my viewport, I do need to update. And I'm going to put it in place, delete that construction line. Now we need a side view. Awesome. So once again, we need our border, and I'm going to leave that to you to go ahead and put that in. And we need a title block down in the bottom right corner. So the next thing I want to do is I want us to create a section view based on our individual objects. So we want to cut through the middle of this object and see what's going on inside. So I would like to do it with the ramp first. And what we're going to do is we can, in our tool sets, which if you don't have your tool sets on, you go up to Windows, Palettes, and then it's down here, Basic, and then Tool Sets. Mine is already on, and it's right here under the Basic toolbar. So we have previously used the 3D modeling tools, which are right here. Now what I want to do is I want us to go ahead and use the dimensions and the notes tool, which is the little ruler kind of down center. So as you can see, it has some of the same dimensioning tools that we have in our basics toolbar. You can use either one of those for dimensioning. But what I want you to look at right now is this tool right here. It has sort of 2 arrows going up. This is the section elevation line tool. So what we can do there is we can basically create a cut through of the object. The other thing that we can do with this tool is create an entire cut through of the stage to get a side view of where all of the physical elements land, as well as where the lighting instruments are above, where the soft goods are. So this is a very useful tool. So just go ahead and click on that. And then what we're going to do is it's ready for us to go ahead and just draw a line right through the object. As you can see, I like to go all the way through an object beyond its edges. Just like when we're doing a subtract solid, I like to make sure we're seeing the whole object. Once I click once, you can see there's a little arrow here pointing up. If I pull my cursor down, the arrow points the other direction. So this is basically setting your camera to look one direction or the other. So we're going to go up and then just kind of double click. And you can see it has these big black arrows that are going to point us in the direction that we will be looking. So we want to place this section in the section sheet layer. So again, we're going to go up to View up here, top left, scroll down until we get to the Create Section Viewport. Okay, and so it's going to open a whole nother dialog for us. We want to be Create on Layer. We want to go ahead and click on this because we don't want it on our elevation page. We want it on our sheet number 4, which is our section. For this, we can name this Ramp Section. Again, I want 1/2 inch scale, high detail. For the background render, we can go ahead and do dashed hidden line. Foreground render, we're going to just leave it at none. And then press OK. And then as you can see, this has cut through that whole solid object. If you remember, we did create our ramp using the Subtract Solids tool. So we're seeing a cut through of the entire solid. We also want to do a section view of our tent object that we created. So we're going to go back to our design layer, make sure our check mark is there. We're going to go back to our classes. For the time being, we're going to turn off the tent tool. Oh, excuse me. Turn on the tent tool, turn off the ramp tool. This section was created in None class, and we need to leave that None class on. Eventually, if you wanted to not see these dimensioning lines on your drawing, you could create a new class and call them like section labels and put those right into a different class. For the time being, we are not going to worry about it. So again, come over to your tool set. You want to get that the section elevation line tool. I'm going to make sure I'm lined up with my center point here. Draw beyond the edges of your object. Choose which camera direction you want to point. I'm just going to point up. Again, I'm going to go to View, Create Section Viewport. This one I'm going to call the tent section. Okay, and so now we have that tent section view. This looks a little bit different because we used the 3D polygon tool to create this. So essentially, where our ramp is solid throughout, the tent section is hollow. This could have implications later when you're deciding how to build things, but for the time being, it is okay. If you created your tent using the solid subtraction method, it should be solid black, and that is a-okay as well. So the next thing that we want to do is create our border and create our title block. Now, we haven't put any dimensions on our sheet layers, so that's one thing that we do want to do. So I'm going to take us back to sheet layer 2, and we're going to put some dimensions onto our objects. Okay. When you go into classes, there's automatically already a dimensioning class. So when we do dimensions, we want to make sure that the check mark is in dimensions so that it holds it into that. What I'm going to do is go up to my tools, organization, classes, And on our dimensions, I want to change that pen color because I really like for my pen to be blue. So I'm going to just go ahead and select a nice sort of royal blue color and apply that. So that way my pen will always be blue in dimensions. So this is a little bit tricky because what we've done is in our sheet layer, when we're on this outside sheet layer, we are in 1:1 scale. That works really nicely because when you create your border and title block on here, they're repeatable. You can copy paste it from elevation 1 to elevation 2 and so on, and then just change some of those details. But at this point, what I want to do is I want to go into the picture that we've created. So each of these is like a picture on a piece of scrapbook. And in order to create dimensions that are in the correct scale, I'm just going to double click into this. And it brings up an option. I can either change the crop or I can change the annotations. So I'm going to go ahead and change those annotations, and I want to make sure my class is dimensions, and it is. So we just need some basic dimensioning on this object. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this label down a little bit because I would like for my dimension to come below. And I can click and drag, click it down to the other endpoint, and then you want your dimensions to be nice and consistent coming off of your objects. And the way to do that is to just hit the tab button, and you can place specific lengths away from your object. So we're in 1/2 inch scale, and I want it to be 1/2 of an inch away from my ramp. So I'm just going to hit 6 inches, tab, and then it gives me this round circle right here, which is essentially showing me where that 6 inches away is in all directions. I want to pull it down from my object and double click. Oops. And it's not blue because why? Because oh, because I didn't hit use at creation. Of course. So I'm going to go back in and edit that. It's blue, but I need to hit the use at creation. Okay. This wasn't quite far enough with the 6. I didn't really like that, so I'm going to go ahead and go 9 inches off. Hit tab. There we go. So that's showing exactly 8 feet, which is exactly what we want. Now I'm going to put this dimension in, tab over 9 inches, tab. Great. Awesome. Those are the basic dimensions that I need for this object. Okay, and so now you have your dimensions for each object. You will go ahead and do that for your other elevations. The other thing that you want to do on these is that we do want to grab some of these angles. So the way that we do that is this angle dimensioning tool. And then we can simply select, okay, so it doesn't want us to select these different objects. So what we have to do, unfortunately, is go ahead and create some construction lines, and then we can choose those objects to get that angle. This time I'm going to do this inside angle as well. I do want to get the total height of this, so I'm going to select this point, select this bottom point, and go ahead. I can tab out again because I selected the outermost point second. I can go ahead and put in the 9 inches to create a consistent dimensioning distance throughout the whole drawing. Oops. Double click in, make sure you're on annotations. I would like to update before, so I'm gonna go ahead and update. Sometimes I accidentally make extra dimensions, so I'm sorry if that's confusing. I'm not meaning to do that, really. I'm going to go ahead and put an extra line here and right here so that I can get that dimension. Okay. And then you would want to do your border and your title block. You also need to go in and do your dimensions on your ramp. I will let you do that by yourself. So I hope you all have a really great day. Thanks for sticking with me.